the next question would be, do you feel that there's any kind of meal or dish or whatever that can't be veganized? I mean,
well, without it being, if you wanted,
well, I mean, I get like a ribeye, you can't,
no, I think you can veganize anything. If I'm being honest, the last 2.5 years, I have learnt so much about veganizing stuff, and like cashews. So there's several things that I would say are the top things to buy if you're vegan or go vegan. One of them is cashews, because cashews you can soak and you can make cream, and I tell you that the cream is just amazing. So I make carbonara out of cashews.
Oh,
and
wow.
it is insane. Like I when I did eat meat and dairy back when I was like 18, 19, I would never touch carbonara. It was just too much for me. It was just too much for me. Too much heavy cream, too much, like just too much.
Right.
And then since being vegan, doing it with cashews, I cannot get enough of the stuff. I absolutely love it because it's not heavy. It's really light, but then it's still got the creamy taste, and it still tastes legit. It tastes really good, but it doesn't give me that disgusting feeling. It makes me feel like I've had a good meal.
I love some carbonara, but the thing is I'm kind of addicted to, after being set straight by some Italians on FoodTribe, there is no cream in carbonara, and
there's not. No.
Yeah, you go through, and then having it that way is addictive, but it's very not vegan because it's basically pasta, eggs, and a form of bacon.
Exactly.
So it is very
exactly. I know the traditional way is with eggs, but
it's so good.
With cashews, it's just as good. I'm telling you, it's just as good. So I don't think there's no dishes that I don't think can't be veganized. You can always adapt something to veganize it. And like a lot of if you think about it, a lot of the Asian dishes and Indian dishes, a lot of them are vegetable based anyway, or tofu based. So it's only sort of like the Western world where you're quite high on meats that it's there's quite a lot of dishes over this side of the country and the world that is meat orientated, but there's not anything you can't change to veganize it, I don't think, personally. And if there is, I'll give it a go to try and veganize it. If anybody wants to challenge me, I will give it a go.
You sound a lot like Natalie, because that was basically like her response. She's like, "Nah, I'll figure it out."
There's always a way. Where's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's jump into some of these questions that the FoodTribers want people to answer when they're on here. Hopefully. Do you have a guilty pleasure food?
Guilty pleasure food. Okay, yes. So I love bananas, and I have worked out a way of making a banoffee cake. I think I posted it on FoodTribe, but this banoffee cake just is insane, and I just it's my guilty pleasure. I will sit there and demolish a lot of it. And I've got my birthday coming up, and I'm like, I'm gonna make this cake again because it's just too good. So cake is generally like my guilty pleasure, because when the kids go to bed, I will sit down with a cup of tea and a slice of cake, and that's my 5 minutes of pure heaven. Away from the children and to wind down, and that is, I suppose, that's my little treat at the end of the day after having a day of the children.
Yeah, I get you. I am highly addicted to cakes, pies, donuts, any of those pastry based things. And I'm completely I have an addiction.
Definitely, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, give me a cup of coffee. Well, honestly, my best is just give me a cup of milk and I'm good. A cup of coffee is a great second choice. It's great. What's your favorite cheese?
So the vegan cheeses are an interesting point, because a lot of them I don't like. it's a difficult market, and it's because they put coconut oil in to a lot of the vegan cheeses that are for a long shelf life, basically. But there's one vegan cheese that I love the best, and it's Applewood smoked vegan cheese.
Applewood smoked.
Yeah, so Applewood do a non-vegan cheese, which is smoked, and they've also veganized it and made a vegan smoked cheese. And honestly, that's the only one that I will buy, because it's the only one that I like the taste of. They also do, I suppose, in saying that, they also have, I'm trying to think of the Green Vie. Green Vie are good as well. I quite like Green Vie mozzarella because that melts quite nicely. But when it comes to vegan cheeses, I prefer to make my own out of cashews, to be honest. Yeah. If I haven't got time, though, it would be Applewood smoked or the Green Vie mozzarella.
Okay. Yeah, I have heard that the hardest thing is the cheese market for the vegan market. I've only had one vegan cheese, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
God.
A lot of them are, like I say, it's because they put coconut oil in it to make the shelf life longer and make it solid, basically, to make it blocks of cheese. And the coconut oil is what ruins it for me personally, because it's just got too much coconut taste in it, and you're like, I want a cheese, not coconut cheese,
right?
Basically,
the stuff I had was, well, the taste was pretty bad, but it was like kind of soft candle wax texture. It was so weird, and I was like, what? Or a slightly melted plastic. It was just weird, and I thought,
it's the one thing. It's the one thing that the vegan world needs to like perfect, I think, personally. It's the one area that's really difficult, and to be fair, a lot of the time I go without putting a vegan cheese on anything because it's kind of not worth it. And if I haven't had time to make my own, but they're good. The Applewood smoke's really good. I make I do like a what's it called, with pastrami, Applewood smoked cheese, coleslaw, and a like honey mustard dressing that I make with agave instead of honey. It's Reuben's. That's it. It's a Reuben's sandwich. That's really good.
I love a Reuben. I do.
Yeah. So yeah, veganizing a Reuben. Oh my god, it's really good, because over here they've got a company that does Squeaky Bean. It's called Squeaky Bean, and they make vegan pastrami, and it's beautiful stuff.
Yeah. Well, that as long as you like it. But yeah, pastrami sandwich is hard to beat. A Reuben is fantastic.
Yes.
I would eat them a whole lot more, but they're not the most healthy.
No, definitely. Definitely.
What would be your favorite food?
Pasta. Pasta and cake. I'm really bad on carbs. I'm a carb girl. It's probably why I'm the size that I am, because I just eat lots of carbs and I don't burn them off enough. But I love pasta, and mostly because whenever we have a pasta dish at home, the whole family just eat, and it's silent. Like it's just the meal that everybody loves. Everybody eats lots of it, and everybody's really happy at the end of it. That, or like we do like kebabs as well. Those are the really good meals that we do. So we do vegan kebabs with vegan shawarma.
Oh, there you go.
Hummus, roasted vegetables, salads, wraps, and we have it all on the table, and then everybody just tucks in and helps themselves. So I love meals that are like big, and everybody just helps themselves, and like everybody gets involved, and everybody's really happy. But yeah, pasta and cake, carby stuff. They're my favorite kind of meals.
I was gonna say, I am a carb person. I always said that, if I ever had to give up bread and meat, I'm in trouble. My three main,
definitely.
To me, there's only three food groups: bread, meat, and cheese. And I'm in trouble. I'm the type of person, like, when you say carb heavy, I can take a big thing of pasta. I don't care what kind, any of it's fine with me. And then eat it with bread, and then at the end, like you said, go have me a piece of cake, and I'm fine. It's
That's
fine.
it. That's exactly what I do. It's really bad. I really need to stop doing it, because maybe I'd be a size 10 eventually one day if I stopped. But that's my best thing.
That's it. I love carbs. I'm a bit of a carb junkie myself. I like I said, if I have to give up bread, life's going to get rough.
No, I agree with you. We've just started making our own bread like big time as well. So we've got really into bread making at the moment. So bread is up there with me as well. But I love bread.
And I don't care what kind of bread. I haven't really found a bread that I don't like. It's like, I'll eat it. It's fine. It's fine.
That'd be true. Any bread is all good.
Have you what's your worst cooking injury? Ever been injured while cooking?
Oh my god, yes. So when me and Adam moved into our first flat together, I was cooking, and for some reason I dropped the knife, and the knife went straight onto my foot, like and and there was a lot of blood, so I had a big cut. But luckily it wasn't bad enough that I needed stitches, but it did hurt. And that's the only thing that reminds, like, when you say that, is the first thing that popped to my head was that injury, because it was just, oh my god, there was blood. It looked like a murder scene, because there's blood all over the kitchen floor, and then I walked to the bathroom, and there was blood all in the bath, and like everywhere. It's just like blood.
Yeah, that is good. I dropped a few kitchen knives, and it's amazing what kind of dance moves you can make up on the spot to get out of the way.
I learned my lesson, because every time I drop a knife now, my first thing that goes is my feet. I quickly move the feet. I'm like, don't want that happening again. So yeah, that's probably my worst injury. But I did cut myself a couple of last week. I cut my finger cutting up stuff. So it does happen quite often.
Yeah, cooking and being in the kitchen can be rather dangerous at times. I think some people forget that. It's like, oh, you're just cooking. Yeah, well, there's a lot of hazards in there.
There is a lot of hazards. Yeah.
That I have had a few close calls in that regard. I'm really shocked that I ain't impaled a foot yet either. So when you said that, I cringed.
Oh god, yeah. The other thing that I did was really bad. We was on holiday, and we went to the beach and had a barbecue on the beach, and we had one of those disposable barbecues. And I moved the barbecue, then put my hand on the sand that the barbecue's on, and I burnt my whole hand. That was another bad one. That was awful. So lesson learned: do not move a barbecue and put your hand on the sand, because it is living hot.
Well, we had that talk. I don't remember who I was talking to now, and it was that whole, burning and cutting yourself is probably the two most common injuries. And it's like trying to decide, is either one really worse than the other? It's like,
no,
not really. No.
I kind of think burning yourself is worse, because you've got it for days, whereas a cut, you can kind of fit a plaster on it, and then by the next day it's kind of half semi-healed, whereas a burn still hurts for like a good week. It's slightly worse to burn. Yeah, it was awful. My whole hand blistered. I had blisters all over my hand from putting my hand on the sand. So that was a bad one as well.
Oh yes, that anybody who's watched this podcast, I've answered this question, and burns. I put a machete through one finger, and let me tell you, that was nothing compared to the burn I suffered. I'll take that burn any day, or I'll take the machete any day of the week compared to that burn was horrible. Yeah. So, next one, how did you find FoodTribe? How did you end up there?
So I was just looking for other platforms, because I was obviously on Instagram, and I was getting a bit bored of Instagram, to be honest. And I just thought, I need something different. I need a new challenge. So I was just like searching through apps on the App Store, and I came across FoodTribe, and I was like, oh, I'll give this a go. And then obviously opened up a new door to a new world, basically. So yeah, I just found it through the App Store, randomly just searching food pages and stuff, and it came up FoodTribe, and I was like, oh, give it a go, and I've not looked back since.
Yes, fantastic. And as I said, we're glad you're here.
Hey.
So, okay, a little side note with the FoodTribe question. Before being on FoodTribe, did you have any idea who like Jeremy, Richard, James May, any of them people were?
Yeah, so obviously Top Gear in UK was massive, and also I used to live in Guildford, which was a couple of miles away from the Top Gear big warehouse where they filmed Top Gear.
Oh, okay.
So Adam was also Adam was in his car one day going to work, and who came behind him and overtook him? It was Richard Hammond. So I've also been on the M3, and I've had Jeremy Clarkson in a car behind me filming as well. So
oh wow.
We've kind of known about them for like all our lives, really, basically, because my dad also used to watch Top Gear a lot when I was a child, and yeah, it's a big thing over here. I'm not going to lie, they're very big, and we've also watched Clarkson's Farm. Oh my god, it's so funny. I love it. And obviously watched James May's all his new documentaries when he went to China and everything else. So yeah, he's a big thing in our family, and the best thing is that we watch Top Gear on catch up with our son. He's a really big into cars. He loves BMWs. He at the age of 1.5, he would go around the whole roads and the streets, telling me all the different cars, what brand they are, what model they are. And he'd even tell me if the person had left home. He'd tell me what cars were missing. He'd be like, that car's not there, mummy. And I'm like, how do you know these things? Like, I don't even remember what cars are in what place. And he would tell me everything. So he's such a big car fanatic. So he watches Formula One, he watches the British touring cars, and he then watches Top Gear. So he's a 4-year-old that's mad into Top Gear, and he loves watching James and Jeremy and Richard on the old Top Gear things and the Grand Tour stuff. He absolutely loves it. So it's big in our household, I'm not going to lie. But I didn't realise that the FoodTribe was run by like them and everything to do with them. So when I found out, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, such a cool thing. And then obviously you've seen James's cooking programs as well. That's really good. So yeah.
Well, I love asking because I find it fascinating, the mix of people who come on to FoodTribe and they have no idea who the three of them are. And a lot of it's the story like what you give, and it's that, oh, I was just looking for a different food app, and I was just cruising through the food store, and it popped up, and I thought, hey, why not? And they have no idea who Jeremy, Richard, and James are. And then there's the other group of people, and it does seem to be that it's very either you do or you don't. Yeah. And then there's the people who's like, yeah, I've been watching it all these years, and I knew they come out, and I come over.
Our life.
Yeah, and it's like I come over for DriveTribe. Yeah, and I had watched them the same way. It took him a little while to get as big over here. About 20 years ago, the only way I could watch them was on YouTube. And I couldn't watch full episodes. I just watched bits. And then it got to where, they were slowly filtering over, and BBC was starting to air them over here. And over here, there's not all the different BBCs. We have one. And that's it. So, if you got lucky, you could see them on there.
At least you have one BBC though. That's impressive. I didn't realize you even had the BBC.
Yeah, we do.
Wow.
As far as now, years ago, there could be others now. We haven't had cable for probably going on about 18 years now. Me and my wife just give it up. First of all, it's just getting so expensive, and we went to basically internet-based stuff. And that opened up a whole new world. Well, I was able to start watching them then, because then I had more access. And for anybody who don't know out there, and they're getting behind the scenes of me, I there's a lot of British stuff I love, and
Wow.
yeah, so I started watching it, and that's how I got into it. Was, hey, there's this British car show, and it was just hilarious. And 20 years later, I was still watching it, and it was like, and I loved it. So it was one of
That's
those.
good,
But it is.
it's always difficult with the humor side of things, isn't it? Like, because
Mhm.
our humor is so different to your humor, so it's great that you found it fun, because it could be misconstrued, some of their humor, because they're quite sarcastic and dry humored. So it's good that you picked up on it. It's good.
Well,
I'm glad you love it.
I never take anything too seriously. And that is one of the things I loved about British humor, is it's never taken seriously. It is so, it's not quite slapstick, but it's never taken too serious. It's somewhere in that middle ground. I know to a lot of, anyway, I grew up on Monty Python. I thought Monty Python was the funniest thing there ever was. And I watched like all of them. And then I got, as always, I get on camera and I start to forget things. Stephen Fry and
Blackadder.
No, Stephen Fry and I forgot his name now. They done a show just together, and it was little skits. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. I hope you do.
Fry and somebody, isn't it? Fry and
Laura.
That's it. Yes, and he's also in America, isn't he? And he's got a show over in America, hasn't he, Laurel?
I think so. Oh, I don't know about him. Stephen Fry done a documentary here for a while, and he toured America in his black cab.
Yes, that's it. And yeah, I watched that as well. But Laura's in he's in a doctor's program in America.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's a little bit like ER, but it's quite funny, but in serious as well.
I love Fry and Laurel though. I would watch that and just laugh. It was just one of the funniest things in the world. So to me, I got into it. So for me to get into Top Gear just fell into place. The humor was there. It was, and American TV or car shows for TV were horrible. They were like little documentaries, and it was all so serious and so straight colored, and everything had to be just so serious. And they were the first ones to go, we're just doing a car show, whatever, And I loved it because it wasn't what we had here. It was different. And
some of the stuff they did is balmy, absolutely balmy. Yes. Like taking their cars, trying to get across the channel with their cars and making them boats and stuff. Yeah, there's so many good episodes. And I love all the special episodes as well when they go abroad. So they did some in America, didn't they? When they crossed America. So I love watching those as well. It's so fascinating.
I was so annoyed because, they started selling out licenses where these other countries could make their own versions of Top Gear and even call it Top Gear. And when they done it here and the Americans tried to make Top Gear, I watched the first few episodes and I said, this sucks. And I watched like a few episodes and I was like, I can't be bothered. I'm just going back. I'll stick with the original. So, I love finding out, who come over because they knew of the trio and those who had no idea. And it is funny how many people are on FoodTribe. Well, the better ones is the people when you find people on DriveTribe who have no idea. It's like, how'd you end up here?
What? How do you not know them if you're on DriveTribe?
how'd you end up on DriveTribe and not know who these three are? But, that's what happens when you open something to the world and, it starts to grow. It becomes that. And people find it on Google or Apple Store and no clue of, the backstory.
Yeah, I was the same. I was the same, didn't know anything. And then I came on, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Hey, that's what matters is the people who, hey, if they find us however they find us, hey, just show up and I hope you enjoy it, So Yeah, that's what matters. Okay, well, what is your favorite pastry?
Oh God, that's difficult. As in pastry, as in like if I made a pie, or pastry as in like a croissant?
Well, I am finding Fulana Food Burglar, our resident there. That was her question, and she literally just put pastry. Well, I've had people ask me, well, sweet or savory, or
Yeah.
and I thought, well, pastry is a pretty broad term,
Broad,
so I
yeah.
guess
It's because over here in the UK we have like lots of quiches and pies and sausage rolls and that kind of thing with pastry. I do like a strudel, like an apple strudel. That's with pastry.
I agree.
Yeah, it's really difficult because I know I also like making vegetable tarts with pastry. Just doing like a tray bake with like a sheet of pastry, and then you shove loads of vegetables and stuff on top of it, and it makes such a good meal for the summer. Just serve it
Yeah,
with salad and jacket
you had done a
potatoes.
post on something like that not long
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, I did the green veg with a mint pesto. I made a mint pesto for the first time because so in our garden when we moved in, our garden was just brambles and mint.
Wow, right?
And it was sky high with brambles. So we cleared a load of it. But the problem is, I thought I got rid of all the mint, but obviously I hadn't, because there was obviously some rogue roots that were still in the ground. So every summer we get like loads of mint propping up, and it just mass produces. So we have loads of mint in our garden. So I have to keep getting rid of it to stop it from overtaking the garden, basically.
Mint's very aggressive. Very aggressive.
Is. Do not plant it in the ground whatsoever.
Well, you got to watch even in planters, because once me and my wife had found out you can plant mint and it'll keep insects away. It's a great repellent for insects. Well, we thought, okay, let's get some of it. And we had it ain't hard to find, people. If you go out and look, mint's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
We started planting it, and once it's in the ground, you almost can't kill it. It just continues. And we put it in a little pot to keep where our patio is, so it
and I bet
helped
it still escaped as well.
Well, even during a drought, it'll turn brown, wither, and crumble into dust. The first rain that happens, it's back immediately. And it's like, this stuff doesn't go away.
It doesn't.
If it reaches out of the pot.
I've had 6 years of it growing in my garden, and every year I have to clear it. So the mint pesto came from that, because I was like, I've got all this mint, what can I do with it? And I was like, hang on a minute, you need loads of basil for pesto. I was like thinking, can I make a mint pesto? Gave it a go, and it worked really well. So now, like, having mint in the garden is not a bad thing, because I can just use it for that, and also drinks as well. We make drinks with mint. It's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but no. I thought I'd got rid of it all, and it just every year comes back like a demon. So so yeah, I did do that vegetable tart with mint pesto. So yeah, things like that I love doing with pastry. Pastry is really good as well for Cornish pasties. Me and my husband got married in Cornwall, so we had Cornish pasties at our wedding. So when we make pasties now, that just reminds me of our wedding. So that's out of pastry. So we make loads with pastry over in the UK. It's massive here. We make, like I say, croissants are kind of half pastry-esque, and yeah.
Well, that's what I got started getting into. She asked the question. Of course, I just wrote it down. I didn't really put much thought into it. I thought, okay, favorite pastry, that makes And then after I started asking people, and of course, everybody that's answered these has went,
what do you mean pastry?
Then I have to answer subsidiary questions to get around.
I also think it depends where you come from as well, because like here in the UK, pastry's like massive. Like we have pastry for loads of different things, like I say. Whereas if you're in like maybe Italy or Spain or somewhere like that, you might not have pastry as much as we do here. We have so many dishes with pastry involved. We're big We're big on pies. We're big on everything like that. Like I say, so it's maybe it's that she's from a country where it's not a big thing, and like she wants to know. I don't know, but I'm just
Oh, you're gonna make me answer that now. I'm hoping I'm not wrong. I know. I think. Oh, Fulana, don't hate me. Her dad is from Chile.
Chile.
And she lives in New York now. So I
you
think
guys have loads of pies as well over there, don't you?
So, yeah, pies, tarts. Yeah, and
you're quite similar to us.
Yeah, we have all kinds of. There again, carb-based products.
Love the carbs.
Yeah, and Natalie was the same way. She's like, we have so many. She goes, we have savory ones, we have sweet ones, we have,
exactly.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was told to ask this,
I love making cinnamon rolls as well of puff pastry. Oh, yeah. They're good. Cinnamon rolls.
There's
and of course, so much stuff.
Tribe, I find new ones all the time. So
yes, yeah, definitely.
You're never at a shortage to find things. I promise you that.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay. What is your main source of inspiration for recipes?
It depends. Like, so the main thing is if we're doing challenges, I love challenges because they kind of get plucked out of nowhere, my ideas. So we had the one with that John did with like name a dish after a person. So that's when we came up with the James May cake. That was just like pure just trying to think of what James May would like and trying to adapt something. And we had loads of rhubarb, and I thought rhubarb and custard is like really nostalgic, and James will love this. So I was like, yeah. So we call it James May cake. So I love challenges because that just makes me think outside the box and like makes me do crazy stuff that I would never ever dream of doing. But then like you say, FoodTribe, there's so many dishes coming out and so many people doing things. And sometimes if I've got the ingredients there, I'll just like, yeah, I'm going to do that, and I'll do it. Or if I go to the shops and I'm looking at the ingredients and like, oh, this is in season now, I'm going to go use that and do something with that. So then, yeah, it does come from like out of nowhere as well. And also we like celeriac in our house, and so sometimes we think of like doing stuff which is outside the box with things that we always have. So Adam sort of came up with the idea of putting it on the barbecue and trying to make steaks out of it. So he did these massive slices, buttered them up with like vegan butter and some spices and herbs, whacked them onto the grill, and it was amazing. Like just sometimes it's just like random ideas that come to our minds, and we're like, let's just give it a try and see what happens. And especially with bacon as well, vegan bacon is a bit of a minefield, and I've had to perfect loads of recipes because they haven't worked out first time, because obviously you don't have eggs to bind. So sometimes I have these crazy ideas and like, I really want to try doing this and making it vegan, and then I go do it and I'm like, that didn't work. Back to the drawing board. And then I think of it and adapt it, and then I come back, or I change it and I'll add something completely different into it, and it makes it something completely different anyway. So yeah, like there's lots of things that inspire me. Lots of people just coming in the FoodTribe, Instagram, coming up with stuff. TikTok trends obviously seem to be the big thing. Like everybody's, and you're like, I might try that just to see how it works out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's lots of things. Seasonal food, going to the shops, what the kids want to make sometimes. So they wanted to make a carrot cake, so we went and had to go at doing that. So we veganized a carrot cake, so that was good.
Yeah. Well, so you sound like me. It's a lot of internet and imagination. Just
definitely.
So, and I think that's great. There's a lot of people who still do the good old cookbook and go through flipping through pages.
I can't do cookbooks. I know that I'm writing one. I cannot do cookbooks, and Nat will probably tell you as well, because I hate them. Only because I can't stick to something. I really can't stick to something. And I think it's because I've got too much imagination. I basically just go off piece because I'm like, I don't want to put that in it. I'm going to put this in it instead. And then I make it something completely different because I'm like, I can't do that. I want to make it my own. And I'm really bad with recipes.
Well, that's with Natalie. I told her, I said, that's why I'm a horrible baker. And I'm glad my wife is a good baker, because otherwise it just wouldn't work. Because baking is such a precise thing. It has to be exact. And
it is and it's not.
Good. I'm not good at that. I'm the type of just, I'll throw some of this and some of that and taste this. And that seems fine. And, it's just that. So.
The thing with baking is, as long as you've got an equilibrium of ingredients, it generally turns out okay. I found with vegan bacon, so obviously we don't have eggs, so you can still make a perfect sponge cake without eggs. You just don't add eggs. You just add a bit more. You just add a bit more soya milk, and that's it.
Okay.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. You can make a sponge, and it will still stay together. It'll still rise. You just put a bit of baking powder in. It will rise. Just a little bit of soya milk. No eggs. It is mad. It is mad.
Yeah.
And you can. And the other thing you can do with vegan bacon is you can add applesauce, bananas, or flax eggs. So you can make a flax egg out of milled flax seeds and water, and it'll make an egg kind of substance, and that binds everything together. So if you have those three things, if you needed something to bind, those three things would be your things to go to. So bacon's kind of, I've seen a new world to bacon since being vegan. Whereas I used to do the whole recipe for a sponge cake, which was 4-4-2, so 4 ounces of flour, 4 ounces of sugar, 4 ounces of butter, 2 eggs. I used to always stick to that thing when I was baking back before being vegan, and now it's kind of changed a little bit. It's 300 grams of flour, but it's so many grams of oil or butter and then sugar. But it's kind of the same formula, but it's just you're changing out the eggs for soya milk, basically, or a liquid. So you can either have oil or butter and then the soya milk. So it's crazy.
I have heard about the applesauce. I've heard about people using the applesauce as substitutes, stuff for things. And in fact, my wife actually done that. No, actually, it's been a while ago. I have no concept of time.
It goes so fast, doesn't it? Days go past.
Gosh,
weeks go past, and you're like, how is it July? How is it July now?
July? I'm talking about how's it not 2021? Oh my gosh. It just seemed like the other day it was 1990 something.
I know. Bring back the 90s. Bring back the 90s, that's all I say, because the 90s were good.
It was better than the 80s, that's for damn sure. There wasn't that good come out of the 80s, man. Or the music was bad. Anyway, we'll move past. I remember it well. Is there a food or a meal that intimidates you to cook or prepare?
No.
No.
No. And even being vegan, I've had people compliment me on the meat that I've cooked as well, because I haven't cooked meat for 12 years now. And if people come around, I will cook meat for them. I'm not gonna put my hands up and say I don't cook meat for them, because I do, because I think I need to cater for everybody's needs, and not everybody wants to eat my vegan crap, as they would call it.
Oh no, I'm sure.
That's I don't want them to feel like they have to eat vegan because of me. So I do sometimes cook meat for people if they come over, and they've always said to me, you cook amazing meat even though you don't cook it. I'm like, well, that's good to know, isn't it? So
it is.
So I don't think anything kind of phases me, because I can give most things a go. The only thing would be really complicated dishes that chefs do, but even those I've decided, I've done a few really fancy bits on Instagram, and they weren't that hard. It's just time consuming more than anything. If I had time, I'd be able to do anything, I think, if I put my mind to it. It's just the time, isn't it? Sometimes when
Yes. Well,
you've got 2 children.
Sometimes, well, I categorize it into 2 things: time and patience. If you have patience to deal with something that's really tedious and very detailed, then you have a great chance of pulling it off.
Yeah.
If you're the type person that don't have a big attention span, or there's a host of things, and you don't have the patience to put into a grueling kind of thing and the time, then you'll never make it.
No, definitely.
That's just a recipe for disaster at that point.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's time. A lot of
time. It's time. I mean, I have made some really complicated dishes that have taken so much time. Like I've made my own seitan before, like several times actually, and that takes time, and it's a bit of a tedious job. But once you've done it, it's worth it in the long run. It's just like making it yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, it takes forever, but because you have to knead you make like a dough out of wheat gluten, and you have to knead it so long so that it gets the fibers in it, so that it has the sort of right texture when you've cooked it. But then you have to separate it all up, and then you boil it for so long. But then you've got to leave it in the juice to like cool down. You can't take it out, so it cools down. And then like leave it overnight in the fridge, and then you can cook it again. It's like, God, like it's taken me a whole day just to do a bit of fake meat. Yeah. But at the same time, it's worth it in the end, because for doing the effort of doing it, you've got 5-6 times the amount of seitan than you can buy from the shop, and you've got it like a quarter of the price. So there you go. Time and money. Me
and my wife do a lot of from scratch stuff because, well, first of all, even though people look like, okay, prime example is me and my wife make homemade lard. We make our own lard.
Wow.
And people's like, well, that's really unhealthy. Like, well, believe it or not, it's not as bad as a lot of the stuff you buy at the store.
Yeah, it's probably better
because
for you.
You make it yourself, We make a lot of things just homemade, and and I believe that a lot of the unhealthy stuff, the food, comes from all the preservatives that you get from the stuff from the store. And once you start realizing, if I make this from scratch and make it myself, your shelf life is maybe half or a third as long, but it's healthier because you ain't putting all these preservatives and all this. All this other stuff into your system that really isn't as natural.
No, exactly. And I think that's the key point to like being plant-based as well, like just being a foodie, I suppose, as well, because if you do cook from scratch, like you say, you know exactly what's going into your food. You know there's no preservatives, and like you say, it doesn't last as long, but that's a good thing if it doesn't last as long, because you know that it hasn't been preserved to the hell. It's when it's lasted 2 weeks and it's still alive, and you're like, how's it still okay? That's when you're like, sometimes when we get loaves of bread from the shop because the boys want sandwiches for nursery or school, I do wonder, like, this has lasted a week, this bread, and it's still not going moldy. Whereas when you do it yourself, it's like a couple of days.
Yep.
And then you need to put it in the bin. So we've been trying to do that thing of like doing a loaf and then we cut it in half. Like we bake our own loaves, cut them in half, then we put half in the freezer, and then it's not so bad, not so much waste. But like I say, you know when it's good and when it's not good, basically, from preservatives. So definitely cooking from scratch.
I think that is a huge, difference. If I can go back just real quick for a moment, you brought up something that I don't think I've ever actually heard a vegan say, and it impressed me. That if someone I give credit where credit's due. I do. There again, I also think it also leads to some of the animosity out there. Is you said that if someone comes around to your house or whatever, and they're not vegan, that you don't mind fixing, other based foods for them. Often what we hear from our side of the fence, I guess, is, there's no compromise. If you, okay, let's say I go out with some vegan. Well, it's going to be a vegan meal, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I have to go with them. I have to eat vegan because I'm with them. And if it was one of them where I say, hey, let's go out, I'm going to this steakhouse, let's say. Well, then they ain't going to bother going because they don't eat that. And they, it's a protest of, well, I can't be seen in there because I'm a vegan. But yet, me, if I'm going out with them, it's, well, you have to eat here. It's at, well, dare I say, a bit one-sided.
Yeah.
And it was very impressive to hear you say that. I actually stopped for a minute going, yeah, I heard her right. And then you said it again, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely heard her right. So, congrats. I as a non-vegan, I appreciate that.
Well, no, because I don't, like I've said to you before, I don't think nobody should be enforced in my beliefs and my way of life. If you want to eat vegan, if you want to come round and I cook you a vegan meal, I will cook you a vegan meal. But I'm not going to make you eat vegan because I'm vegan. Do you get what I mean? Like, it's the same with my children. Like, they eat meat, so I do cook meat for them, and I do cook meals for them that have meat in them or dairy in them. So it's part of my life anyway. I'm not immune to the fact that I have to cook meat because I do. And yes, it's a tough decision that I've made and put myself into, because a lot of vegans, like you say, will probably hate me for being so adaptable and changeable to what people want. But me personally, no, I don't eat meat. But if somebody wants to come to my house, I don't want them to feel like they're going to be starving, hungry. I hate people coming to my house thinking I'm not going to be able to eat because she's vegan. So that's why I say to them, look, what do you want? I always say to my friends, like, what do you want to eat? Do you want to eat what I'm cooking, or do you want me to cook you something separately? And if they want something separately, I will do that for them. Like, my father-in-law comes round, and he's very much into meat. And when I do kebab night, I will have the vegan shawarma. I'll cook my vegan stuff separate, and then I will do him some chicken shawarma for him.
Nice.
So he doesn't feel like he has to eat because he doesn't like it. He was born in the 50s, 60s, where, I've been brought up on meat and like meat alone, and I am not changing my life for you and everything else. And I respect that because that's who he is. I'm not going to tell him not to eat meat. Yeah. And if he comes around my house, you can't eat meat. You have to eat what I'm eating. So I do cook, and it's nice that people that come around here feel like they can eat and they can be happier, and then they leave here happy. That's what I want, is somebody to come round, not feel intimidated or threatened, and just to be my friend or my family, and do enjoy their company and have a good laugh. Life's too short to.
Amen to that.
Life is way too short for all this pernickety stuff. I can't eat meat for dietary reasons. That is my problem at the end of the day. I have not gone to the choice of not eating meat because of all the other animosity that vegans have. I've had it from a dietary point of view, and so is my husband, and we've both taken the decision dietary-wise. So as far as I'm concerned, if somebody wants to eat meat in front of me, they can. I'm not going to go guns blazing and having a go at them. And I respect people for eating meat. I respect people for not eating meat and eating fish. I respect people for eating vegetarian. Everybody is free to eat what they want at the end of the day.
It. I don't care if you want to eat McDonald's 24 hours a day. I don't approve of it, but hey, you do you. You do you.
Exactly. If that's what you... And the other thing is as well, it's important, is everybody's bodies are different as well. That's the biggest thing to highlight, is like my brother is a stick thin. He can eat loads and loads of stuff and not put on any weight at all. There's me, I just look at something, I put weight on. So everybody's bodies are different as well, and we've got to all adapt to like our body and what our body's telling us to do, as well as our minds. Like, yes, animal cruelty is wrong. Everything. I agree with it completely, and I get it. But at the same time, I'm not a prejudiced person. I don't have prejudice against anybody that eats meat or uses animal products or is in the animal industry where they are killing for making meat for people. That's, you know, it's life. I'm 100% realistic that that's life.
Yeah.
And we have eaten, like, as humans in this world, we've eaten meat since day one. We've always killed predators, you know, like we are predators. We've killed for eating meat. So that's never going to change. I'm not unrealistic as a vegan saying like everybody's going to go vegan. Everybody's going to go vegan because we've got to save the world, blah, blah, blah. It's never going to happen because there will always be people that eat meat and will never turn back on their backs on meat. So
that was one of the things me and Natalie had discussed, and she said, well, you got to give it a chance. And I told her, I said, well, you know, we got into the discussion. She's like, well, I ate meat all my life up until I decided not to. And, you know, so we got to discuss, and she said, it's just a matter of, you know, do you want to do it? And I said, well, for me, it's just not even there.
Exactly.
I grew up, and I think this kind of bothered her. It probably bothers a lot of people, but it was just the way I grew up. I grew up kind of backwoods. We were hunters. You know, if you wanted to eat, you went hunting. You went fishing. You wanted meat. You found it. And if you wanted vegetables, you go out in the garden and you picked them. If you wanted fruits, you went out. We had bushes and trees. You went and got it. You know, but we were hunters, and we processed our own food. So not only did we euthanize the animal, we also knew how to break it down. And we got into the discussion of, you know, well, loving animals. And I said, I dearly love animals. I have always rescued animals. I, you know, it breaks my heart if I see a dead animal, you know, especially something that's died for no reason. It's just, you know, well, in fact, I was upset the other day, and pretty upset over the fact that there was a stray cat that went running through and had a dead bunny in its mouth. And it broke my heart. And I was so upset over that. And I thought, you know, it's a bunny, it's a harmless rabbit, you know, and, you know, those kind of things break my mind. But I told Natalie, I said, in that, I said, as a child, me and my mom used to rescue birds and all kinds of critters and nurse them back to health, bring them into our homes and try to nurse them back and get them back to health. Some made it, some didn't. And I said, but as a person, I have that love for animals, but when it comes to food, it's a switch. You flip that switch. And
there's
I
no
can
difference though, is there? From like,
no.
I respect you for hunting them, but everybody else in the UK or in America, they go to a supermarket, they get the meat from a packet, and they just go home and cook it. They don't think of the association. As you've got the association of hunting the animal down and cooking it from that point of view as well, which is more respectful in a way.
There's a lot of people who have lost that. They don't know what that's like. And it's not we go out and whatever walks out, you know, is what we're going to eat. It's, you know, I've done it for all my life. And so when I see, let's say, a deer walk out, I can tell you that's going to be something that's a good one to eat, or no, let that one live. Let it go. Just let it go. Either it's not good for what we want, or, you know, that's the one that needs to live to continue to make sure we have sustainment, you know, to keep that sustained. And it's a very real process of how to look at things and determine, you know, is that the one that you're going to take for food, or is that the one you're going to let go? And, you know, there's a lot of respect there. When we take an animal, you know, I'm grateful before anything, you know, once it's down, it's in the back of the truck, before anything else happens, you know, I always say a prayer and say thank you. You know, because you always have to remember that, you know, it was given to you. It wasn't something you went out and done. And to me, that's a lifestyle. That's something I have always done. And it's also
I think personally, I respect you for that, but I think personally, the thing that I find the most disturbing is when they have mass cullings in the abattoirs. Then it's like 60 odd sheep that just go like that, and it's gone. You know, that to me is something that's like, wow, like I can't. It's too much to process. Do you know what I mean? Like just killing animals with a shot, you know, like a electric gun, like zapping them. That's it, gone. Or just splitting them open. That to me is like the most horrendous point. But I mean, when you're coming from a point of view where you got to hunt to eat because you need to eat, but you, like you say, you respect the animals and you know what ones to do. That's admirable in its own self. That's not, to me, that wouldn't be. It's not such a big deal. What is a big deal to me is the mass cullings of animals, and it's like, yeah, that to me gets me in the head more. Is like seeing programs where there's mass cullings of animals, whereas one man just hunting for dinner for his family, like that to me that seems perfectly normal. in a weird way, in a weird kind of way. That makes more sense to me. Like I don't think that's a bad thing because you're just taking what you need and that's it. Whereas this whole thing of taking loads of animals and half of those animals might not even get eaten because I don't know, nobody wants lamb that year because something's happened. You know, like that's what's wrong. There's just this mass thing of just killing loads of animals to make meat for a supply chain that might not even be there.
Well,
do you get what I mean?
And, yes, I do, 100%. And first of all, you know, that's why I told Nat, I said, that's why it'd be so hard for me to change. I am so ingrained into that area that's just me. I get upset at anybody who goes out and hunts and kills something and then just leaves it or don't use it to its full potential. That angers me because now that animal died for the reason. And I told Natalie, and we've had this discussion with a few other people, that the farming area, I don't care where you're at, anytime you have thousands of animals that you are raising strictly for money, let's face it, you're raising them for a bottom line. And I think that can be refined and made better. There's a lot of room for improvement there.
Definitely.
And even as a person, you know, who eats meat, I fully support that. I think that how we do our oceans, how we do our livestock can be changed drastically and made so much better, more humane, and be more sustainable. You don't have to get rid of it to be sustainable. You just have to manage it better.
Yeah, and I do think supermarkets are to blame for this because in the UK back, you know, even 20 years ago, we had butchers and they've been pushed out of business. And that's what's wrong, is that the butchers would only go to the farmers and get the stock that they needed for their community. And now we've got to this mass production of supermarkets where we've got thousands of chickens all lined up in a plastic packaging and filled with water and everything else. But how many of those chickens get wasted every year?
That's it.
And that's I think fundamentally that to me is the wrong part of our food chain, is that we've got this big thing of mass production of everything because we might need food one day. And it's like, well, we can all live quite happily with like the basics, and there's so much food out there. Like you go to the supermarket, there's aisles and aisles of all different types of food. We are not short of feed, and I think that's what angers me the most, is that we have this mentality that we've got to kill 30,000 chickens for this supermarket this year. And you don't, because not everybody needs to eat chicken at the same time, and I think that's the hardest part, is like just coming from a outside perspective now, because obviously I don't eat meat and I haven't eaten it for a long time, so the thought process is even like in the 12 years of me not eating meat, I've seen how much more meat has gone onto the shelves and how many more different things are coming out that, you know, you just think, God, like, do we really need all this?
Yeah.
You know, people have got greedy almost, and that greed is what I think is causing the issue with And I can completely understand with vegans that are animal rights protesting, and they are protesting for that, because I get it. I do get it.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
I
I
can
don't think
see
we should do away with it, but I think it could be
no.
seriously revamped.
It
Seriously
just
revamped.
it just needs to be done. It should be done on a process where you, I don't know, whether they can have it like, so you've got your local farmers in your area, and then you put in an order of like what meat you want, when you want it, or you or you get the meat and then you freeze it, and then it lasts you for like how many weeks, and you use it to, I just think we waste so much food in this country and other countries as well.
A prime example of that is one of my pet peeves, is if you go to these restaurants, and food waste is food waste. I don't care if it's meat or a vegetable, it's a waste, because it was for no reason. But you see these people who go out and buy these elaborate meals with all kinds of food, all kinds of courses. They sit around and talk, and then get up and haven't ate but a tiny bit of all the food they ordered.
Yes.
And when you do that, what people don't realize is that food then just gets put in the trash. And I've worked in the food industry. I've worked everything from fast food to restaurant food to hospital. I worked in a hospital cafeteria. And you know how much food I literally had to throw in the trash? I threw nice steaks away. I threw fantastic dishes away. I threw basic stuff away. Because why? Somebody got to talking or got to playing on their phone and completely missed the fact that they were supposed to be eating. When their time was up, they just left it sit there. Don't even take it home to eat it later. They just left it there. Not only from the standpoint of that is a waste of food that was wasted for no reason, it's also a waste of money. And the only people that's profiting is that restaurant now. You know, the restaurant made a fortune off of a whole lot of food you ordered that you didn't bother eating, that they're now just going to throw in the trash. You know,
that's the problem, isn't it? Is this whole greed of like, I'm going to eat this, and then not eat it, and then it's just a waste. And there is a big issue. Like you say, waste of food is just.
And it don't matter if it's plant or animal; it's a waste. And there was some farmer, there was some person out there who picked it, planted it, somebody who bagged it, somebody who prepped it, then the cook who cooked it, and then you just chucked it in the trash.
And the worst thing is there's people in the streets that would have loved that meal.
But you can't give it to them.
That's the hardest bit. I feel like this day and age, I don't understand why we have poverty, why we have people living on the streets, why we have a third world that doesn't have enough to eat. Like, how are we still in this position where we've got greed and then just poverty still? Like, why do we still have this? We're in 2021, for God's sake. Like, we should be in a situation where everybody is able to live and eat and survive, not have any. There's lots of things that are fundamentally wrong with this world, I feel. That's a different story for a different day.
There's a gang. Yes, there's a gang of stuff. And hunger is one of the most, how is that possible? Because, you know, I worked, like I said, I worked in a lot of food services where if somebody was hungry, it would have been super easy to give them a meal, a whole meal that no one touched, but paid for it. And I'm standing in front of a trash can going, well, I'm going to throw this away. Whereas if someone was truly hungry and was standing at the door, I can just hand it. It's still wrapped up. It's still fine. No one ever touched it. And they would have been ecstatic for it, you know. But instead, by law, you have to scrape it in the trash. And, you know, and it's.
I know there is like apps now you can get. I don't know if you have it over in America, but in the UK, we've got apps now so that you can get food from restaurants that are chucking food away. So it's kind of getting resolved, but I still just wonder why, like, this day and age, we still have people living on the street. We still have a poverty. We still have people living in horrible situations, people not able to eat. And then there's all this food waste. It's just like mind-blowingly balmy. I just think, why?
It's heartbreaking as a person.
Yeah. It
because you realize that humanity took a very wrong turn somewhere.
Definitely.
It needs to get back over on the course at some point.
Definitely.
I hate to say this. I usually try to cut these at 2 hours, and we've done one over. That is not a bad thing. I am not complaining. It has been an absolute pleasure.
And you. It's been amazing to meet you and actually finally speak to you.
Yes, and that's what I loved about this, was to be able to put a face, a personality, a voice to that little icon that you see all the time. We're used to seeing you and your husband's little picture in the corner of all the posts, but now we'll get to see and hear, and it's much different when you. Yeah. Oh, you've done fantastic. It was truly great, and now people will be able to put that personality, that voice, that bit of character with it, and it brings those posts that little more to life. When
Definitely.
now I've interviewed several people over time now, and now when I go back and read their post, I hear their voice in my head, so I'm reading it as I would hear them say it.
Right.
Then I know how to take their character, so when I read it, I can kind of put how I took them into it, and it just makes things better. And that's what I hope these podcasts do, is that people can bring that back to them, so when they jump back onto FoodTribe after watching one, they go to your profile now, they're like, oh yeah, and be able to put that energy, that character of you and stuff into it, and not just read words, and feel somehow they're a little closer.
Yeah, and hopefully all the meat eaters will be like, oh, go check out page out.
I'll take care of them, don't worry. You're okay in my book. If there's a vegan out there that hates you, says you're not vegan enough, well, there's a carnivore in your corner going, you know what, she's fine.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. It is difficult. It's probably because I'm so open-minded, and I respect everybody. I respect everybody for who they are, and that's probably my downfall as being a vegan. But that's who I am, and I'm not going to change myself.
That's a life lesson for everybody. Respect people. If they aren't harming you,
be kind. Be kind,
yes,
and be respectful. Life is too short to be anything else than kind. We're in this together. At the end of the day, we're all in the same boat, sailing away in some same direction. And wherever we've come from, wherever we're going, we've got to be there for each other.
I couldn't say it any better. Exactly. And it doesn't matter. Quit categorizing, quit judging, life's too short for all that. There's enough negativity in this world. Let's put more positivity out there.
We're all equal at the end of the day, in my eyes. Definitely.
We're all flesh and bone and blood, regardless. So
exactly. We've all got mums, we've all got dads, we've all come from somewhere, and we're probably all related in some way.
That's probably true.
At the end of the day.
So, hey, and on that fantastic way to end it, actually, is there anything that you would want to promote? Any websites, any stuff you're doing? I don't care, anything.
Well, just our Instagram page and our FoodTribe page. If people want to come check us out, that's great. The more the merrier, and give us a poke. We want to see more people and get into more people on FoodTribe. I don't think I haven't scratched the surface yet with everybody. I feel like I've got some people sussed, but I think there's a hell of a lot more people that I need to become acquainted with. So yeah, come give us a poke or a comment, and check us out, and we'll check you out.
Well, yes, always go check them out, see what they got going on. Not everybody's just dedicated to one community. A lot of us are stretched out. I'm DriveTribe, FoodTribe. I'm on YouTube. Everybody's a little bit of everywhere. I may get a hold of you later and get your all your actual links, and I will post all their links in the description. Make it easy for you guys. You can go straight from this video to their Instagram, their YouTube, their FoodTribe, wherever, and make it easy for everybody. So
brilliant. Thank you.
Hey, not a problem. Least I can do. and get you guys out there. I know this is a very small channel, but hey, it's the least they can do to get out there.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Well, hey, and that's how I say it. You're willing to come on here, talk, and interact a bit, and I think that the least is to go ahead and give you that promotion. And I know this ain't much, but if it gets you a couple people, hey, it gets you a couple people, and hey, I tried to do that. So
thank you.
Cool. So yeah, I'll probably get a message you here later and have you send me your actual link so I know how to get them in.
Yes.
I don't know anything about Instagram, so I'd be completely lost. We'll do that. So,
yes, brilliant.
All right. Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and sign off. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you got to know Voodie Vie or Suzie a little bit more and appreciate what she does. She does do some fantastic stuff. Her stuff looks great, and we are so happy to have her as a part of FoodTribe. And she's blending in well. So please go check out her stuff. And as always, FoodTribe, stay wonderful, and remember, I love y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we'll get that in there. I think I can.